has not come to order. First item of business on the agenda is the approval of August 17, 2023 minutes.
Madam Chairperson, I move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
It has been moved and second that we approve the August 17, 2023 planning and zoning meeting minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Now we will have public comments. Anyone out there want to speak about any concerns? We will move on to our new business at this time. First item on the new business will be our scheduled special meeting to review master plan on November 3rd, 2023 at 6:00 p.m.
Yes, Madam Chair, the reason for this item is we will have the first draft. The intention was to go to the commission, the city commission in November. Since you normally meet after the commission, in order for you to review it first, we need to schedule a special meeting. There'll be a public meeting the night before, and then they want to get your review on the schedule. It's like the third is the first Thursday of the month. It's an open night in terms of city meetings, and then the commission will review it a week later, the city commission.
Friday.
Is it Friday?
What that? What's wrong? What?
November 3rd, is that, am I reading this wrong? Is that right here?
No,
It is.
thanks.
I show it
It
as,
should be the second.
yeah,
Okay, so it's the second.
so it's the second, and at 6?
6 p.m., yes, thank you.
Does that work for everybody?
Yes.
Better than Friday.
So obviously, since the night before, you won't have any kind of review, any public comment that would have come in the night before that, but we'll get the draft to you as soon as we can, so you guys can review it prior to that, and then they'll take your input on the second, and then it goes to the city commission on the 9th for their review as well.
And what's the public?
The public meeting's on the 1st, Wednesday the 1st, is the next. I believe I got that right. Let's-
And will we still meet later in the month, or regular time?
Yes, that's the intention, have a regular meeting on Thursday.
Do we need to make a motion to that effect?
Yeah, we'd like you to vote on that.
Okay.
I don't count it.
Okay.
I move that we hold a special meeting to review the master plan November 2nd at 6 p.m. Here, City Hall.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and second that we schedule our special meeting to review master plan on Thursday, November the 2nd at 6:00 p.m. Ready for a vote?
You want me to do roll call?
Yes.
Okay. William Laurie,
Aye.
Dan Dodge,
Yes.
Kenyatta Hardy. Aye. Veronica Glover.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think what time is the public meeting? On Thursday?
I'll get back, I think it's, well, probably 5 or 6 o'clock, somewhere around there.
And the process, you said, so it's gonna come to us, we'll discuss it on the 2nd, then it goes to the commission and then it's approved, is that? Or is it something that it goes back?
It'll come back to the commission again,
Okay.
there'll probably be tweaks. I can't remember when the final rule might be, not be until January.
I was just curious. Will we be having another meeting about it, or?
I'm not sure, yeah, I'll have to look it up.
Just curious.
Okay. All right, next item under new business will be our land development code review, Article 3-3.16.
I think Lupita, we're going to bring these back because there were some things we missed or need to revisit.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
We're gonna jump right in. It's my planes, Land Associates. So, long story short, my portfolio, was in my purse, which was stolen when I was in Virginia for an emergent, trip that I had to take up there. So I had to resend Article 3, although I did find the one that we made our edits to, like where we put schools and things like that, on our computer here that we use with Karen. So what we are actually circling back on is, understanding, the central business district, which we are changing from downtown retail, something like that, but DR something. And we also, need to have an understanding of whether, our traditional African American community, business community is gonna be in or out of, the overlay. And we also have parking incentives to review. So, we can address that, any which way that the, planning and zoning commission members would like to address that. Do we just go straight to, the downtown overlay and discuss, the incentives and, the performance standards regulations that we're prescribing? If that satisfies the commission, we can start right there.
Did we decide on the school, we did the schools,
Yes, they're in conditional use.
the conditional use of them? Then that was something that I talked about, I can remember whether it was.
I know, that was one of the things I was questioning.
Yeah.
And then one thing I did want to just kind of clarify. So, we were putting schools under conditional uses for the, residential.
It was
And then I was looking
permanent.
at the the size of the lot. So it's not like a major school, it's like a charter school or something like that.
Right. If it's gonna be in a residential area, it's gonna have to be, the reason we'll go through a conditional use is because, the staging area for cars and for parking and for, outside, whatever the requirements are for kids to have outside time, enough room. And so that's why it would be conditional. There would have to be-
Pickup is often a challenge, if the pickup is all at once in
Yeah.
100 cars in a neighborhood lining up.
So you don't have to say yes to a conditional use, you would have to meet conditions, and the findings would have to demonstrate that they can mitigate what some of those negative impacts might be.
And
That's how a conditional use would be, can be approved, so that the findings would be evidence that that all of the conditions could be mitigated, any negative conditions could be mitigated.
So it's not a yea or a nay, it's just making sure that just.
Yeah, it's just how you're gonna mitigate these impacts.
You can't say no,
Absolutely.
it gives you opportunity.
But by moving it out of permanent makes it so it's not an automatic thing.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Which you get a chance to look at it and
Right.
decide if this is gonna be too much for the neighborhood or.
Because the impact on the neighbors is the biggest thing.
So if it's a small preschool with 10 kids, that's, an owner can mitigate.
Yeah.
Potentially can mitigate some of those negative impacts.
One thing I'd like you to go over is the overlay itself, kind of explain it, and that's still a little foggy for me why we need it.
In downtown retail too.
Okay, so an overlay, is going to be able to establish an area with a boundary that's going to be able to allow, incentives. In this case, we're, proposing, parking incentives, either shared parking or not to have required parking. And so it would only be allowed within that overlay, within the downtown overlay district. So those would be some incentives. If the CRA decides to have some other incentives, that they could bring to the board, those incentives could be, considered, also by the board. And that would be a good time for them to, to kind of review those and see what they would like to be able to include in an overlay. If you don't have an overlay, then, how would you apply some of those incentives, that you would want to have, like for shared parking? If you have a dentist office that happens to be downtown and they're open from 8 to 5, Java Bistro that opens from 3 to 10, that's an opportunity. That's one example of shared parking, so we don't have to use a lot of real estate, for parking.
Why not just offer those incentives to those downtown zoning, the central business zoning? Just make them part of the zoning. Why have an area that's not zoned downtown but has the parking incentives?
Well,
Transition.
if you want it just in the central business district, because the parking,
Do you have a map on the slides?
yes, let's see, yes. Here's the only area, this pink area. You can see it, that we're proposing to allow for parking.
To address Charles's good question, do you feel that we need to go beyond the border areas, to ensure sufficient parking?
We took, the studies that the University of Florida did, and, while the CRA was being created, their original master plan, they did a parking, appetite. And so when you look at a parking appetite, you look at, like, if we have 100% zero vacancy, what does that look like with some of your uses that you have? And so, with that appetite, you could, there's enough to be able to propose shared parking on that area. So we took a lot of that, and digested that from the previous studies that have been done for the redevelopment area in order to stimulate economic development for your downtown. And
So we're talking about the downtown retail district, correct?
Correct.
Right. Within that district, is there enough parking to support future build-out? Okay,
There is enough parking, according to the
The
state.
overlay's a bigger area.
well, that was what I thought you were getting at. Why go to the overlay? Is that for future growth of parking needs?
Well, what I'm wondering is, so the overlay is bigger, and I know what I mentioned in the commission, kind of glanced at part of 3. You said, well, to incentivize people to change to the downtown zoning. And one commissioner said, well, why would we want to grow the downtown zoning? Why do we want to incentivize that? So what's the advantage? Still not clear in my mind. We just put all those incentives into the downtown zoning. And so anywhere we want to apply them, we just make that downtown zoning. Why have a buffer area, a larger overlay that's not actual zoning, it's just an incentive district? What's the purpose of having that additional layer? Why not just give all those benefits to downtown zoning? And you don't get it if you're not in downtown zoning.
Well, I think that's a legitimate argument to make. If you don't want the overlay and you just want it to be, I don't see any reason why we couldn't do that. If you want to make the incentives for everyone is.
What do you recommend? The overlay or just the downtown district?
Well, if the board is comfortable with those incentives for economic development in the whole downtown area, then absolutely, there isn't any reason why not to do that. This was a conservative way in case it wasn't gonna be well received by, we have to have parking. Usually we have over parking, we have a lot of real estate for parking. So this was a way to kind of soft pedal it, if you may, not really understanding, particularly for me, since I haven't worked with you, how you would feel about, some, non-traditional solutions for economic development.
So it sounds to me you're encouraged by adding the overlay.
We don't have to have the overlay, if,
That's not what I'm asking. We know we don't have to have it. I'm asking what's your recommendation? Not what will please us, but what's yours as a consultant.
I would provide incentives for all of the downtown business for economic development, if I were.
Great. Great, yeah, I agree with that. I think it's wise to think, 5, 10, 20, 30 years out.
But the,
You want to
I
match?
thought we had the map,
but
yeah.
the downtown development overlay includes a lot of area that is not gonna be downtown retail.
So
So
it includes the downtown already.
But it has
Why the-
residential and commercial
Yeah.
zone properties. We're not changing the zoning unless the people want to change the zoning in the overlay district.
And they may want to.
And they would
And I
want
don't
to,
know
and
that
that
I
would
don't
be-
want the overlay, I just don't understand the
It
overlay.
makes it optional,
Yeah,
so that we're
yeah.
not changing everyone's zoning on them. Because people don't like that.
You can have the advantages of the downtown zoning, but still be in your single-family residential zone adjacent to downtown.
Right.
You can
And
waive
it's
your
voluntary.
It gives you,
We're not changing the zoning, right, Rupita? That they can request to be included in the overlay, and that's what triggers that.
No, the overlay would be just established.
Yes, it would
The
be,
zoning would not change.
the zoning would not change. You really honestly do not need the overlay. It was our very conservative way of being able to introduce non-traditional solutions, not really knowing what the board's appetite would be for that.
so in the overlay, a single-family residence has the option of changing their particular zoning, correct?
Yeah, anybody can apply to change.
Sure, yes, so, again, to me, it provides possibility for future growth of the commercial zone. And, I'm sure under your guidance, we'll be very successful, we'll need it in the future.
That was my thought, was it was encourage you to change your zoning, although if you're getting the benefits without changing your zoning, are you really encouraged to change your zoning? And that was we had one city commissioner saying, objecting to growing the central business district, encouraging it to grow rather than just letting it grow naturally. So I was just not clear on, because the overlay goes over the downtown zone and the surrounding area. So
Oh,
the downtown zone gets all the benefits anyway.
Right.
And the neighboring housing and a little bit of mixed apartments are there, get it by being in the overlay. And the reason we're giving them, for instance, zero parking requirement would be one benefit. You don't have to have on-site parking, as an example. We want to encourage them to switch to a commercial use, become an office or a restaurant, and then ultimately change their zoning. Is that the reason for the overlay?
no, I want to be able to get the overlay map up here, I just don't know how to get it up.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not showing you what's on your screen.
Yeah, I really have a PowerPoint up here. There, okay, see, this is what I want to put up.
So what's showing?
Close this.
That's a PowerPoint up there, right?
Yeah.
Or is it a
I can't
PDF?
get it, no, it's a PowerPoint, but I can't get it off. I can't, it's off of this. but- Karen's pen.
Oh, 2668.
Can you close PowerPoint with it?
I won't close.
So go down a little.
Yeah, go on that. Rachel, can you go? Go to the tab, is it, oh, now it's on, there you go.
I'll see if the map will come up.
See, here's the overlay.
Yeah,
Dan behind you. It's big, it's bigger than that page. I think it's just part, would actually be a subset.
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, it's on the,
Yeah,
Right. That, off the waterfront, the previous meeting.
So technically, you don't need the overlay. This was our way of being conservative, to introduce, some economic development solutions without.
the overlay is the only thing that parking?
What's
or
outlined in green is the
Parking
overlay.
incentives, or I'm confused as far as the pink part.
Have we defined the incentives yet in the draft?
Or the downtown
For the overlay.
Only
Parking?
the parking.
It could be stormwater.
Yeah.
If we do, at some point we'll do a master plan, and say you can share this pond.
So the green border is the downtown development overlay.
But the pink is the parking incentives.
Okay, and where's that parking at?
And the parking incentive is in pink.
So where are those, where,
Well, it's
So
along
that
Central
goes
Avenue.
from Florida
They
Avenue
park on the street, or,
So that's a
and
subset of the overlay. It's kind of another overlay.
yeah, so what's the,
that's where in the incentives, where we would waive parking requirements, where it's pink, that's Florida Avenue to the north
right,
and Cypress Avenue to the south. So that you could do shared parking,
well, there's
and
street parking
reduce
too.
parking and encourage
So,
street parking.
credit for
But as Charles said, that incentive can be part of central business districts, without the overlay.
that. Yeah, that just seems like that's excessive, if there's no other option, I mean, no other
I think it's,
incentives.
again, I think it's wise to have it include the overlay
So
for future growth.
how does the overlay work? If I own land on Florida Avenue right now, north of it, and it's residential, SR1A, and I want to open a massage studio in my house, I don't know why I picked that as,
Yeah, first,
Some sort of
something that's
business.
a permitted use.
you know, a yoga studio or something. That's not a permitted use in residential, how would that affect me as a landowner? Like, what benefit do I have being in the, and what do I do to, would I still go through the same process of getting a variance or conditional use? Probably a variance, right, on residential, SR1A.
Oh, well, if it's not, if the use that's not allowed, you would need a conditional use. The incentives of the overlay really are yet to be determined. As an example, if our code said you gotta put 5 parking spaces in here somewhere.
Right.
That overlay might say, you know, you can actually count available on-street parking
there's
in
some side spaces.
city lot on the corner, or something like that.
Or if my neighbor runs a bank or something. That's a shared use of parking.
And we can, I can't think of any other incentives off the top of my head, we can include in there. Basically, you allow more density, less parking, shared stormwater,
So,
sometimes overlay allows more height, smaller setbacks.
Well, for instance, the apartment building that's on Lake Street in Central, and she's getting a grant to put in more parking space,
Yeah,
but there's street parking right there, that's where people park now. And that would kind of be the opposite of what we're trying to do here, right, is to get people not have to put in parking.
yeah. A better example would be the little lot corner of Prospect and Central, right next to the King. If you have a park on that lot,
Right, there's no
you
room.
pretty much can't build anything there. So we need to waive that parking. So if it's already there, because it's in the central business district, you don't worry about parking and the pond or whatever, you know, that, you can build right up next to his building. You have to meet the fire code, which I think would require 5 feet.
But that's what our zoning from the downtown district says, that you build to the front of the lot.
Yeah. So some of it's already there, if you're in the downtown zoning, but if you're right behind it in the SR1, but you're still in the overlay, you would enjoy some of those same benefits.
but depending upon what you wanna put there, you have to get approval for whatever, because if it's zone residential, like.
Yeah, there's still some other, you have to meet some other challenges.
Right.
So in our land development code that we proposed, the incentives would be for, only, retail, and service, not dentists, not lawyers, offices, things like that. It would be for,
Oh, that's right, yeah.
retail,
Gift shops,
cafes, bistros, gift shops.
Galleries.
So it, And that follows along more of your Main Street 4-point program and what, multiplier of your dollars effects would come from those dollars, and it would be tied to tourism, more so than your service, local services. So your incentives were designed for those retail specialties.
So we may have answered this question. So when you think about the overlay, and it's already, what is there is residential, okay? And we want to incentivize, generate more businesses. So if I am in the overlay and I'm currently residential, if I change, you can't go back to residential. Is that did we talk about that at one point?
If you change your zoning
Right.
from single-family residential to central business district, and your building requirements are going to be aligned with commercial inspections. So you're gonna have ADA bathrooms and things that things that you normally may not require in a single-family home. So, and depending on, what your millage rate is, your commercial taxes are gonna be applicable, they're gonna be in the CRA tax increment financing,
Well,
trust fund,
it would be a different tax rate though.
and so it would be,
Value.
unless the board decided that they wanted to be able to allow residential up on top, the second story, if there is a second story, and allow for commercial downstairs.
You could go back, you could ask to switch back. A property over on Prospect did that years ago, became an office. And then with the last 2 months, since I've been here, they went back to SR1.
Yeah, it would
There's a
be
fee.
when you apply to downzone again. An applicant can always request zoning, that's right.
Yeah, that's the concern, if somebody, because I open a business and the business don't work, or my building is just sitting there because nobody is renting it, but I know people need somewhere to live, that's my concern, that we're able to switch it back and forth, but, because we don't want it to sit there, because we can't make people rent, or, people gonna always need more places to stay
That's true.
than people need businesses.
Yes,
And
and
so
so,
the answer is yes, you can
Now,
bring it back.
yes, that was, yeah.
It may cost you $1,200 plus, whatever.
and it's legislative, which means it's up to the appointed or elected officials, to grant it, so you can grant it, somebody can come and apply and, pass a little bit of what's the character, of the area, and check, approved. So it's not onerous, other than.
That's what happened over there, the buyer wanted to live there,
Mm-hmm.
so they switched it back to
Yes,
SR1.
Okay.
So it says in here that the incentivized uses, so you have to have this is what the only uses that you can have, and then you get the parking relief and that stuff, the cafes, coffee shops, bakeries, clouders, especially retail gift shops, restaurants and bars.
So if I want to put my office in the overlay, I just don't get those incentives. I can put it there, but I don't
Inside,
get.
we don't want services.
Can you scroll up? I don't remember if there were other incentives.
There's a parking relief dimension or meaning that you don't have the setbacks, and then the facade grants.
Yeah, we put in there,
And I think the reason why the overlay is what it is, it also includes, it talks about the National Register District as being part of the overlay. And,
it's a big chunk of the district. Yeah.
right, so that's why it goes beyond, this is a business district. Because the historic district goes all the way up and down.
And as your
I'll let you
CRA and your master plan comes together, you have that meeting coming up. This would be a good time to make sure that they mirror one another, that they are, because you want your codes, your regulations, your standards, your performance, all to, work together. And so, that would be a good time to look at your master plan and see what your consultant is, also, through his or her studies, your appetite for parking and, the Main Street program, which is a great program for 4 points. All that can be aligned and still amended. I mean, this could stay fluid up until that, and, you have an opportunity to look at that master plan.
So right now, we have 3 CRAs, we have Main Street area, we have the Central Business District, we have the Historic District, and now we're adding downtown overlay, and none of them match up, they all overlap parts of each other. And that just already is too confusing for a lot of people.
Well, it was confusing for us too.
So I mean, I feel like we're just adding another layer of complications.
However, your historic district should be your fundamental foundation, because
We need to
people come to your historic district, they don't come to look at your subdivisions. Tourism, and your multiplier dollars effective are gonna come from that, are gonna come from your historic preservation.
So
Your revitalization, your redevelopment is gonna be, and your grant funding is all gonna be connected to, your historic district boundary. Your CRA, also is already an established boundary, and that's where your tax increment financing, dollars, are going to be. So if you want bonds and things, I'm not sure exactly how much is in your TIF. So that's an established boundary. Your central business district is just that, your central business district, and that's gonna be, the backbone of your retail.
And that's the one we don't actually have established.
the actual one.
Have a central business district zoning. This will establish a zoning, which we actually don't have a map of that yet. Just what will be the downtown zone, deep, this is called DR1.
Yeah.
We don't have a map
The
of that.
downtown, yeah.
No,
But the,
Do we have a map of it? Or do we not?
You haven't created one yet, have you?
no, because we didn't create one because you have, a redevelopment plan coming, a Main Street program here, and that all they need to be married.
So again, you haven't developed it yet, you haven't mapped it out yet.
No, we
correct?
have a concept for it, but it needs to be aligned
Refined.
with your master plan.
Yes,
For
surely.
so the two, the downtown overlay, we match up with all that? I
Well,
mean,
it'll be bigger, there'll be a central business district.
okay, but yeah, it still does not match, it doesn't cover the entire historic district.
No, it can't,
No,
because you don't want to incentivize all the way out to the borders of the historic district, with downtown type.
Well, I mean, that was what we were trying to align everything.
But it includes all the prospect, I mean, it's a lot of purely residential areas. These incentives are to incentivize cafes and dense parking and
We should
density.
just reduce that to the central business district.
That was
Right now,
where we started with this conversation.
Yeah,
central
now it's
business
like, it's not,
district and the overlay.
like, I think it's way too
Yeah.
confusing.
I think as Dan pointed out, it's like a growth where
Right,
the central business district could eventually grow into the overlay, where there wouldn't be
but
two.
it includes all of the historic district that is residential now.
No, no, it wouldn't.
All right, it includes, I mean, it goes into that, the whole area on the west side of 17, north of here, is all residential. And
It's just a bite of the historic district, it's a bite of the CRA. I think all of the Main Street district is in there.
It about doubles the size of the business district. That's all.
Yeah, it shows where it could
It's
grow.
not. The other thing is I think another advantage is that if you look north, there are lots that overlook the place Stella. And for a cafe or many businesses, that's a great plus. People are drawn to water views, so I think it would further enhance that type of development in the town.
Well, ironically, when the commission reviewed, they pulled back off of Lake Stella. You notice the overlay doesn't go all the way. That's from their action.
Yes, yeah, I see that.
They were like, some of them were like, oh, we can't have businesses over there, right on it, so. We edited it out, those properties facing the lake, based on their direction.
I think we touched on it too, when we were talking about the African American district, because at one point those, they said we're thriving with businesses, and so we were talking about whether or not that should go into the overlay.
So it's included. I think your main concern you expressed was, if the house is there burned down, could I rebuild the house?
Right, yes.
You could.
Yeah, because we want to
Have flexibility.
keep the face of the community, because it was residential and commercial.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
so by including the overlay, it would assist those, businesses, those commercial businesses with that.
Mhm.
So you should have maps, I know they're small to read when they're 11 by 17, but at one time I did provide the board some 11 by 17 maps. And,
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have them in my package.
No, she said that we have to come and look at it.
This is a nice bigger version. So you see, we came off of Lake Stella, with the exception of right here at the bottom.
What is that little piece that sticks out there in the middle of that top block? Right there.
Right here?
A little bit more, so, that green line right there.
Oh, I should know that. It's,
Yeah, I don't know.
it's probably an error. So the hash would be where, and this is what I thought of initially, like, is that where we think downtown will grow eventually? And our downtown just starts rolling and people are trying to build new things, and this is kind of, to me, the overlay kind of says, this is where we want that to happen. As a way to kind of incentivize it even, because one of the things that we talked about will happen is, so the day after we adopt this, nothing will be zoned downtown central business district. Everyone will have to voluntarily rezone the property that wants to be in there. We can't go in and just rezoning all of you. That's get us in a lot of trouble. So it'll essentially be the same. And then there's certain properties we'll identify, like we want you to go ahead and switch, we'll incentivize it, we maybe make it free or whatever. And then the other way, like you guys are on the overlay, if you choose to switch, it's up to you in the future. In the future, someone who buys it from you would have that option. So the CRA is the yellow, you see it's bigger, the checkered is the historic district, there's no way this will ever all match up. So it works in my mind for the overlay, we think of it as where we want downtown to grow. We wanna encourage it to grow. If we don't want it to go somewhere, now's the time to go, no, we want that area to always stay residential. We really don't want to encourage offices to come in there.
Anyway, this is based on the University of Florida study, or just what we feel?
Well, this, we talked with folks from, Concerned Citizens about this was the historically African American business district. These areas, obviously, this is our property and the school site, and then this was kind of, we went back and forth on this, behind Central Avenue, behind the bistro, do we want that half of the block to potentially become, those old houses could become shops and cafes and boutiques or whatever, or offices, or we're gonna go, no, let's take that out, that needs to stay. That's the decision points we're at now, we can recommend to the commission, here's where we think you should draw the line in the sand for the growth of our downtown. Commercial, and dense development, zero lot lines.
And does that matter with our food, with the fish land use? Or?
We'll get there, we'll then look at that.
I think that's, go ahead.
No, so the tip, you said on Grand Rondo, but that tip there where Windstream is,
These two are Windstream, and this is Elizabeth Gomez property, we can tweak all that.
okay, and so,
You're next door to that,
but it's out of this,
it's out.
okay.
You go all the way through?
Huh?
Does that lock go all the way through?
No,
That's
No.
right, yeah, it's split. So the lot behind you would be in the incentivized area, and yours would not, unless you
Okay.
want to make that change.
Okay.
Now's the time we can tweak.
It's unusual that they wouldn't go up to Florida Avenue instead of making that little notch.
So here,
Yeah.
so those are vacant lots.
exactly.
with the exception of the,
Yeah, which I mean,
So looking, north, here, I can appreciate where that's, that's a nice residential area. But then we have the school here, I mean, this is a great possibility, even down here.
it's all in it except,
that's what
well,
it says.
that's a residence.
That's what wrong.
So the whole school site is hashed.
So that's that 5 acres.
Yes.
For business district, those
For downtown.
for the downtown,
over-
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So like, even if this became, townhouses, let's say, in the field, they might actually use the incentive, the parking incentive aspect of it.
Yeah,
So the hash area, the downtown overlay, that's the one place that you can get the downtown retail zoning, you can ask to change to it. I'm just
No, you
trying-
can ask anywhere, but, it's like we're encouraging it to switch.
Okay.
That's how I do the overlay, we're saying,
And what is
this
this
is kind of
another,
where we
is
see you
there
going.
another zoning category we've created now too?
Well, the historic resources is another overlay, is that right? So the historic district we call HR one,
But it's not, it's
that
a,
one confuses me too.
it's not a district that you apply for, it's a district because you're going, if you become a certified local government, it's a district.
But it's not a zoning district, is it?
No, but to make it simpler for applicants and for whoever might be appointed on the board to understand you're in the historic district, you're in the historic area. So,
So we're adding a local thing for the National Register District.
yes, right now, that's what it is.
Is that the same as a local historic district?
No, a certified local district, certified local government, is, you apply to, Secretary of Interior standards now apply just for the exterior stuff. Your grants and all that come from your certified local government status.
I get that, but I don't see the difference between what we have as HR one, I think, and just a local historic district as we would do today. You know what I mean? I don't understand what that accomplishes. It's like another, it's kind of another overlay, but it's lot by lot. Any more questions on the downtown overlay? It is another
We slightly understand now.
layer, it's.
Our residents are never understanding.
Okay, so your 316, your historic district does not have to be in zoning. It could be its own, chapter with its own performance and its own regulations, except that you're not quite yet a certified local government. You're hoping to get there, hoping to, or have you applied for that?
Not yet. Do you have it on the screen, the HR, I think it's HR one or HR?
Well, I changed it to historic district.
Oh, I see, 3.16.
And I changed this to central business district,
Okay.
3.8 instead
That
of,
was the downtown
Can
retail.
you show us 3.16?
yes.
We don't have that in the packet.
It's in there.
Yeah, it's in the historic
Oh, it's in
preservation
there.
part.
Oh, God, maybe I'm jumping ahead here.
Yeah. Just a little.
The one thing that was in the downtown retail was that the maximum size was 3,000 square feet. But then I saw, as a conditional use, it can be larger, than 3,000 square feet. Because I was looking at just currently buildings that are on Central Avenue. King's Office Supply and Printing is 2,600 square feet, but Christina Marie's place is 3,200 square feet, according to the property appraiser. So I don't think that is very large.
Yeah.
As far as being, it is kind of two storefronts in a way, but I just was wondering why we had that.
I'm sorry, I was
limitation.
doing something else, so you got to start over with your.
I'm sorry, in the, what used to be the downtown retail, I guess now central business district zoning, it says the permanent, or it's the maximum lot, or the maximum size is 3,000 square feet. But then as a conditional use, you can make something over 3,000 square feet inside, I guess, it's not the lot size, it's the building size. And I was just looking at and comparing to current, buildings that are on Central Avenue, and like the new dance studio, is 3,200 square feet. And I just was wondering, is that number too big or too small? 3,000 square
Well,
feet.
that's a good question for the folks who live here and who, you know, because we didn't change much of that. The only thing really that we added to your zoning districts was another, SR4, I think it.
SR 3 and 4.
SR4. Or, and the central business district with its incentives.
I mean,
So
it
if
wasn't,
you want me to change that, that's, you know, that's up to this board to
I don't
decide.
mind it being as conditional use, I just think that, I just want to make sure that that's.
I think it's prevent boxes, big boxes.
Yes, it is.
That's what I was wondering, what the person, because at least that gives you a way to cut off something from being too big going in there.
But I don't think the maximum building size is 3,000 square feet.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
think it's just too small.
No, but you can do it larger than 3,000 as conditional use. It's just not allowed by right. You have to get a
We
conditional
have to
use.
apply.
Right.
Yeah. I see.
Which and that's why I just wanted to
I
make
think
sure.
if you look at the average of what your downtown, framework is right now,
Why, that's what I did, I looked up, like King's Printing is 2,600 square feet or something, but then the dance studio, or Christine Marie's yoga place, and it's 3,200 square feet.
Well,
But it does have two doors, so it can be set up as two different places, but I still have a site, I don't think that place is getting very large. Like, my property appraiser is 3,200 square feet,
the hardware operation is.
well, that's much larger than that.
well, they're in existing use, so. it's-
Yeah, but I'm just saying that these are examples of
It's up
current
to the board
business.
to decide if they want to change
I just
that.
wanted to make sure.
I mean, you do have to consider how much land we're working with, right?
And most downtowns, I mean, the storefronts are not that big.
Right. And it's not saying that you can't have a storefront bigger than that, you just have to get it approved. So, and I'm just thinking like, if the CRA was sometime building on the middle property that's on Central Avenue, and residential upstairs and commercial turnkey downstairs, how big would you want those to be?
Well, it might be the footprint that's on me.
Now, is this total, all floors, 3,000 square feet?
I think it's the footprint.
One
So,
thing, like if somebody bought the city block over here, that'd probably come in as a PUD, so we would negotiate everything, so.
Sure.
This is to prevent gigantic, boxes and,
Now, you want entrepreneurs downtown.
well, I can see, 3,000 square feet. I mean, retail is so limited these days. But with a restaurant operation, food and beverage operation, 3,000 square feet is not very big. By the time you put in a full service kitchen, dining area,
They
bar
just
area,
apply for additional use.
I understand that. I was just making a point,
Just right, the back of house stuff is takes a lot of room,
50%.
right, as much as no
Yeah,
problem.
that's right, and that's a good point, and so if it's a conditional use, and people know that, and the board and the applicants understand that if it is gonna be, an operation that, have to have a kitchen, a freezer,
Because for retail, yeah, it would make sense for food and beverage.
because you want room for your tables.
Right.
So,
Mr. Construction.
so, I mean, is the board comfortable with that? or do you
Yeah,
want
I
me to
just
discuss that?
wanted clarification.
I'm sorry, what was your
Does
question?
the board want me to amend the square footage footprint, or are you comfortable with like larger ones being under a conditional use?
I'm fine with that. I just want, it was just the only one that had a maximum built-in size. But now I understand
On
why.
that, Brian's Corner, if somebody wanted to put a restaurant, they're gonna need,
But they just get a conditional use. It's just like the people here next door that came for the pub, or the tap house. But that's all you have to do.
Well, that makes it a maybe.
Right.
Yes,
Don't we
yeah.
want it to be maybe? We
No.
want to make sure that they're.
I wanna
Not
make sure that
necessarily.
they
I
can.
think 3,000 is just too small.
Or we can make an exception for restaurants and whatever else might come in that is gonna need a larger footprint.
Focus through analysis. I think it's probably 3,000 square feet.
It's over how many?
I think it's gotta be over 3,000 square feet
Yeah, I mean, like,
as well. Well, I mean,
without knowing some examples. I think 4,000, 4,500.
or we could put that food and beverage, as exemption
As a
application
rejection.
or something. I mean,
Well, I would make it, quite frankly, I'd make it 5 or 6. Because what's the reality? You're gonna get a retailer in here
Yeah, come
that
in.
needs
Yeah,
a lot of space.
You don't need to really.
well, because we've limited to what's gonna be there anyway. Okay, so we're not talking about a McDonald's or Burger King or Chick-fil-A, those are not allowed in there anyway.
Correct, yeah.
So it's gonna be like little
Cafe,
cafes and, somewhere,
and then you have the conditional uses over 3,000 square foot already.
I'm okay with the 3,000, I think
And
that's
that's your existing,
reasonable.
it's been existing, so if it's
Well,
been
yes,
an
but,
area.
look where we are today.
Yeah, if it's been a barrier.
That's
then-
what we're here to address. Well, I really feel that it should be 5 or 6. That's mine too, just to make it, more attractive.
yeah. But, and then, like I said, most likely because we've limited what can come down there anyway. So it's not, the chances of getting something that big is not gonna happen, because the only thing that really would be is one of your fast food franchises.
Like a Chili's is
You know,
5,000 or 6,000 square feet.
Like somebody coming there with a restaurant like that, they must be coming in with a Carrabba's, with that.
So let me ask a question just for clarification. So I know in the downtown retail, we established permitted uses, but for instance, years ago, we were hoping to get a McDonald's, but it was gonna be not in the downtown.
GC.
So I'm saying, so I guess my question is, if we kept the 3,000 square feet because of what we have already established as permitted uses, if a McDonald's or a Chili's come, it doesn't mean it has to go in the downtown district.
No, it can't.
It can't.
Right, so I'm saying, so I'm
It's
talking about the need to expand that when we already have uses over 3,000 square feet as a conditional use.
Yeah, it's not saying they can't do it, but it needs a conditional use.
But he was just saying that amount.
Yeah.
So they don't have to go through that if the chances of that happening.
It's more encouraging.
That's what, he was making it doable if it came to that possibility.
I like the safety of anything bigger than 3,000 needs a conditional use.
Well, what's
Just to make sure
the risk? What are we safeguarding against?
someone coming in and building a 5,000 square foot Chili's in downtown.
But we've already established that
They can't go there.
those builders can't go in there downtown, am I correct?
No, not a
Well,
Chili's.
Chili's
Oh,
could,
so,
it could if it met our,
I mean,
so but no fast foods?
that's not fast food, that's.
No,
Actually, it is.
It's a restaurant. I mean,
It is fast food.
it's horrible, but it's still.
Well, it's not considered fast food, it's considered a restaurant.
Operationally, there's no question, it is.
but that's-
Operationally, it is.
Operationally, but
Yes.
it's
But
not-
they're
Yeah, I
not
understand.
that big,
I just
they're
had
making
to-
them small anyway,
Fine.
So,
how do you two feel? What number are you comfortable? Let's see if we have a consensus.
no,
Good boy.
3,000, 5,000,
6.
6,000?
Morrison's.
The reality would be like CVS, given our current situation, CVS wants to go on the corner with a big 5,000 square foot building with a parking lot around it. Well, our rules prohibit that from happening. At least maybe have to come in and get an okay, a conditional use.
Absolutely.
It's a tough one.
If you're a member of the public, you can ask, you're talking to her or us.
If a company is thinking about the possibility, whether it's a company or an individual, is thinking about coming to Crescent City with some sort of a project or some sort of a business they're thinking about opening somewhere, we don't have a Chamber of Commerce here that speaks for us and helps promote us. But if they're looking at several places and they look and say, oh, they only allow 2,000 square feet, they're not wanting anybody to come in. They're not friendly to another business coming in. That may be why we're the state we're in right now, is that when you look at that, you think, oh, we have to go through too much hassle to be able to have our business there. So I think it's a good idea to increase it. You know, I don't know to what extent, you know, what's realistic. But absolutely, if a company has certain criteria they go by when they look at something, we'd be out of the picture right off the bat.
But that's not for every.
Franchise.
Yeah,
It's just the downtown.
Yeah,
This hasn't been in existence before either.
Yeah, this,
So this has not kept anybody away, right? Because this.
I don't know that it hasn't kept anybody
This
away. Do you know that?
This requirement didn't exist.
The 3,000 square feet?
No, it's in a new zoning category that we're making right now.
So we have to decide if we want what we want.
We're just getting different,
Well, what's the answer?
comments.
The GC one.
Everything, all we have for commercial is GC1 and professional. This is downtown.
this is downtown. Now,
This is
if you
brand new.
consider downtowns, if you
Right.
use Fernandina, a downtown as an example, they have all different sizes, and some of those are only 25 feet wide and 100 feet deep. That's only 2,500 square feet. And you have, retail, in those. There was, it started off super small, Italian with the pizza place, barely 1,200 square feet. And of course they outgrew it, which was a good problem to have, I guess. But there's, the reason for the 3,000 square feet is because, when you start looking at larger ones, it is the Chili's of the world and things like that that would fit the criteria for that.
So, okay, do we think, okay, let's think about downtown Deland, okay? So looking at those buildings, about how many, square footage are you think we're looking at those restaurants?
25 to 3,000 square feet.
That's multiple storefronts in one building though, right? Because I mean, you have a whole block building.
There's no setbacks,
True,
Yeah.
they're small operations, they have very few seats, very few tables.
But that's,
This would be just for new construction. Could somebody come in and build a
Right.
building?
Because I know the Bite downtown, I don't know how to look it up, it's a restaurant right on the corner. And, but it has upstairs and downstairs seating. And, they got Mr. Bills down there. And,
the Thai.
they got one on the corner of New York.
Mhm.
It's pretty big, but you can go in on both sides. So on the average, I don't, know how it used to be the brick house across the street, so I don't know about how big.
they're all mom and pop operations, family operations.
So,
So you said earlier that the square footage, 3,000 is existing, is that correct?
That's my understanding,
No, the GC one, if this is our current, is 35% of building cover. So it's expressed as maximum building coverage, 35%.
So it's, I see.
This is a
Okay.
brand new
Sure,
zoning district.
yeah, no, I understand that.
Okay.
Okay, so,
My bad.
yeah, okay, that's what I need.
Yeah.
So one thing to consider, one thing I think about when someone says to me like, let's get somebody to build a theater or a boutique hotel or any kind of a large structure. My first thought is, how am I gonna fill that if it doesn't work? So one of the things I think this addresses is, we need small, leasable, reusable space that's not, little entrepreneur can, how do I fill 5,000 square feet? I can't afford it based on even a good per square foot rent cost. So if someone wanted to fill in, let's say between Kings and the dance studio, and they're like, oh, we wanna put 4,000 square feet in there, this would allow us to, why don't you squeeze that down a little bit, not quite as deep, park in the back, and, stay within our 300, or it's like, okay, let's talk about it, it would require them to come and talk about it, like, we think what you're building there is too big, maybe.
But they may want to do 2 stories, the functional home second,
Yeah.
yeah.
If someone's,
Yeah.
if someone's
So this is just the footprint.
a business
Sure.
owner, they're, getting a conditional use is not that much of a hassle. I mean, right? Fill out a form, you come before us and we discuss it, and there you go. We just did one. 3
Well, then it
months
goes before the commission.
ago. No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
No?
No, it's 450 feet.
Good to know.
Yeah, the land use authority.
I guess what
That's why
I'm
we
thinking
said
of
the
is
requirements
when
are important.
you downtown, you want more, you wanna see more smaller business.
That gives it
When
vibrancy.
I think about the downtown area, I see cute little boutiques and, you know, shops and things of that in the downtown area. So the land has a downtown area, but they also have other areas zoned for the bigger commercial.
I think Kim has a great point, so,
And that's-
so I'm not gonna press my point anymore.
Yeah.
So we can move on, but I do have a question. What's your definition of a boutique hotel?
So, a boutique hotel would be something that, is not a flagship. Now, it could, now.
An independent, just an independent?
Yes, now there is there is now I can't remember if it's a Hilton, but it is a flagship, but it is a boutique hotel. It's smaller, if it's a smaller.
Let me explain it.
It's number of rooms.
Every major chain has, boutique hotels now. And, like, they won't have Hilton, but they have another name for this division.
Okay,
That
so,
makes it very charming. So every major one chain has it.
Is it like 30 rooms or something?
and it
like that?
doesn't have, it doesn't have
It
like,
doesn't have to be, it's the whole,
It's the unique.
exactly, yeah. And it's more
Higher
personalized.
level of service.
Exactly, yes.
and it's more of a destination for like weddings and celebrations and that are going to be smaller. Now, I'm not saying like a big, huge wedding event, like when you're 26, but more like when you're
It has,
42.
it has a unique character all its own.
It doesn't look like every
Individual
other,
arts,
Yeah.
or,
each product.
And many of them go in and renovate the existing building. And, like an old school.
Mhm.
So anyways, okay, so there's no association number of rooms.
No,
Yeah, okay, well, I just wanted to get that
And-
definition.
I don't even know if there's a standard, industry, planning industry standard for a boutique hotel, but
Usually it's under 100 rooms.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Not the definitions, but we're not everybody in the game, it's more, it changes, it's changed, but you're right, you know.
oh, I know,
Yeah,
yeah, no, that was my industry.
Yeah.
part of the reason that I brought this back was to get the board's approval on the overlay, if we're keeping the overlay boundary, the African American community boundary. We did move schools to a conditional use. And, we did change the downtown retail to the central business district. And, I think that's pretty much it. I am really eager to, understand how the board feels about, I guess it's gonna be, we do have a historic preservation board meeting.
Directly after this one was made.
Okay, so,
So let's go back to the overlay,
okay,
because we haven't given you, direction on that.
no, it's just been a good discussion.
Right, would you like direction from
I'd
us?
like love direction.
What direction should we go, is the question. Well, I can tell you that as I said, I'm encouraged with the, expansion of the downtown area, particularly to north of Lake Stella, and to restore the historic, commercial, area there, because, I think it's very important. And for those who live in town, quite frankly, it'd be nice to have a little grocery shop again, you know? And in today's retail world, that's becoming popular.
Mhm.
So, anything we can do to benefit, that area, I'm all for it. And to help our future grow long term.
One of the things that I don't know if we ever got, I don't remember ever getting an answer to, was talking about cannabis dispensaries and how that fits in all of this. I know there's other places in the state and in.
We addressed earlier, it's like a drugstore.
Yeah,
But
it's
it's
a
not.
pharmacy. But it has to be allowed as a pharmacy, that's the state law.
Has to be allowed as a pharmacy.
If you don't allow them, you can't allow CVS or Walgreens.
Okay, but then that just seems.
It's
They have good lobbyists.
But that's, we have definitely,
Yeah, they're coming up there.
that's the answer from a lawyer.
That's the answer.
They're everywhere.
Well, they're everywhere, they're in this town.
Yeah, the one here is very quiet and well.
Yeah, it's not there.
Yeah, look over there now.
Yeah.
Just, we don't need more.
I mean, we
It
got
sounds like
more
we're beginning
cameras
with just put in a certain zone.
prescription drugs and we have
Yeah.
CVS is everywhere.
And I know some folks that need it for pain management.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing, I'm just saying it's just putting it anywhere, allowing it to be in GC one. It just seems like there should be some additional use or something. Okay, well,
So back to your question, so basically, I know the original thought was, do we need, or how would the overlay benefit us if we have the downtown district and it has its own incentives, like, so currently, the overlay is inclusive of a lot of residential. Okay, and so the question is that, do we want to have the overlay, basically, in order, and give those residents the incentive in case they wanted to, you know, maybe open a small business and capitalize on those incentives.
in here where it says the incentivized uses, the cafes, coffee shops, are those the only things that, are we just saying those are what we prefer?
And so
To
we put it
be incentivized, those are the things that can happen.
Yeah, it's not the only thing allowed, it's just the only thing we're gonna incentivize.
And the overlay.
Yeah, but that's up for
Okay.
editing, you know, if we wanna put more stuff on there.
And the CRA, master plan, something that we haven't included, but still an option to.
So it doesn't change your zoning if you want to take advantage of these, as long as you're in the overlay.
And if you're in the overlay, you just
Correct.
stay residential, you just don't capitalize on it.
Right. And that's what I'm just trying to figure out.
There's some economic value to rezoning commercial, probably because what's called upzoning, because it becomes more valuable. And then these other incentives also, help as well, so. To me, I kind of settle down when I think about it, it's where we're showing everybody, this is where we think downtown ought to grow. May not grow there for 30 years, but if it's gonna grow, we're gonna encourage it to grow into these areas.
It took me to Myrna Beach 20 years. I don't know that because I got my teeth in planning there.
And those areas were residential.
Yeah, and we had all vacancies downtown when we did the redevelopment. And that project was pretty amazing. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. We found human remains and we had a whole project started on the other side. And so we had to make victories out of those. So we brought all the 8th grade science classes to come do archaeology. Learn a little bit about archaeology while we, and then when we did open, there was no vacancies. And then the off streets, you know, it was a catalyst.
The house started converting
Yeah.
shops.
And so now look at it.
So the overlay can't hurt us, it may not be an immediate
Okay,
It's optional.
change. Yeah.
but, you know, years to come.
Yeah.
And it's only because Crescent City has so many assets. You have your historic district, you have your lakes, you have your fundamental, a real downtown, and a lot of places create something and think they're creating a downtown. This is a real downtown, it's a real town and a real historic district. So you have a lot of assets.
What else do we need to go over tonight?
Just from, as long as I get direction on the overlay, I think we're good with everything else. The changes in the business district, schools are in the conditional use. And then,
And then we need a map of the central business district, what that zoning district would look like if it was, we changed all the lots, we intend, all the GC one to CBD, what does that look like? Because now we just have, the proposed map even just has it all as GC one.
So, I mean, we are actually changing her.
Well, that's the thing, we won't be able to literally change it. Yes. At that point, we'll talk about how do we encourage all these property owners to,
And so where's the line for that? Is that,
that she's gotta make a map, it's what's currently red downtown is GC one,
okay,
it'll become like a different color.
yeah, it'll become, okay, so I have a question. So am I gonna ask GIS to do it, from Florida to Cyprus? Where do you want to see? Or do you want all of it that is red?
Well, that's something we'll bring back to planning and zoning.
All the,
Yeah, and one of the conversations would be, for instance, the apartment building down there is zoned multifamily. We wanna wrap it into CBD, because the central business district is mixed use. So I thought it makes sense, let's just capture the whole thing. Some stuff, we're not saying you gotta change, because there'll be a little bit of residential caught up in there. I think right somewhere in there, I think even, well, if you look at the map, you'll see there's,
yeah, there's some right next to it.
so that'll be the subject of the next meeting is what's the central business district? And then those people will be, you know, we can make it a free process or whatever, where we get them all to change the zoning and but whoever doesn't, it's just the way it is, but, we need to define those borders, because some folks are like, no, I'm staying SR1, I don't care, or I'm staying multifamily, it'll be up to them.
So I mean, so we just make it the 2 blocks, like with the pink.
We could, that's a good place to start, like the
That
thing.
makes more sense. Right now, I mean, we want it to grow, but right now, that's basically what it is up and down this block now. Right, and that
But we want to go
block-
more than one block this way, on Summit.
No, this block,
When you're at Palmares, are you downtown?
you know, not the historic, but yes.
It's the Main Street district, goes up to,
Yeah, we're right, same application.
I think the next block, I'm gonna have to look it up, I think it goes to the fire, not quite the fire station. What's that road right there, the Eucalyptus?
Eucalyptus.
I think the Main Street district goes right to Eucalyptus and down to the other end of Eva Lions. So it gets El Mingos and those folks into that.
Okay, so how far on this side is the, district going,
Towards Crescent Lake,
yes,
it'll go all the way to the lake, it'll go lake to lake.
okay, from Florida?
Well, actually, that's to be determined, really, but my recommendation will be
Okay.
Central Avenue, lake to lake. So for instance, there is a house down there right on the lake,
Uh-huh,
and they may never change their zoning, but some future buyer may go, hey, I'm changing mine to downtown zoning, and I'm gonna put another restaurant in here, or, so you'll need to determine that, what your recommendation will be.
okay, so
I mean, we went 2
Lake,
blocks.
from Lake to Lake on Central, okay, and that way, how far to Eucalyptus?
No, just
At
for
least.
the full block, right?
Mhm.
Right,
At least, I would recommend that's 2 blocks, I think. Yeah, so Eucalyptus, 2 blocks.
okay.
So all the way down to the nursery home?
Oh, not all the way to the lake, I think just on, I thought you meant on Central.
Yeah.
You mean on some,
On Summit, yeah, I would say for Central,
just the blocks on both sides, right?
yeah, I would think just the blocks on both sides,
Because that's-
which has residential on the backside.
Mm-hmm.
It could be developed that way.
So it actually, let me grab this.
Just the pink part, you know, but then you go up and down Summit, right?
Yeah, I think we need a little
Because
more.
I mean, the bulk of that is already GC, except for when you get down to Lake Strand.
That's fine. Hmm?
Just gonna take a wall off with it.
So this could be the starting point of the central business district, this pink. But,
Up Summit,
where's the even line?
you line down by your garage.
Well, down towards the floor.
Yeah.
Where am I? Where's Cypress? Oh, so this is Eva line?
No,
No, that's Prospect. This is Eva line.
yes,
So,
church on the other side.
in the Main Street district, we were looking at, like, where are you downtown? When you're in Alamogos, are you downtown? We really want to include that, so I think it comes down,
That's not-
may even come down to the Methodist Church, I don't remember if we look. And then it goes up to Central.
That's where it is.
So go all the way north, across.
So we want to say that, but maybe only the frontage. That's a discussion we need to have, maybe only the summit. So you'll do a 17 frontage, is downtown, or the backside of the house.
This other
Just
house
because
is
that door back.
for the GC.
So-
It's red, you know, like all the way up and down 17.
Yeah, because red is typically the frontage of 17, not the backside.
Okay, so,
The yellow, that's all on the back, that's all on it.
okay, so we're looking at, but we want it to go, so all of that green on the back as well.
No, I would say some- Like, I think currently really GC1 is just these front lots.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, just the front lots on Summit.
Yeah, so we
Okay.
And that's
probably
the
mirror
church,
that.
and then you go up.
The downtown just comes out central, and the frontage, the whole
Up and down Summit.
park.
You're talking about enlarging the pink for downtown?
Well, I'm just using it as an example, this establishing a central business district zoning.
Instead of the two?
Well, right now, the maps we have show it as GC1. So if we're saying there's a new zoning, someone's gonna say, where? I don't see it on that. So we're gonna say proposed will be this, and then like, it would be like a plus sign, so it'd have to be.
So it would be the pink plus the green.
Not all it is.
But why not?
Because it's not already developed, it's it would future.
This would be a zoning change.
Yeah, no, we're not.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That's the-
They wanna stay SR1 probably now.
Yeah, so,
Same thing with the backside of this block.
I
So
mean,
you're gonna make a recommendation to the commission, and then they're gonna wrestle with it as well.
I think, like if it is zone right now, the front half.
All highway frontage
Yeah.
makes sense.
And on
But
the back
just,
half, you have Prospect Street, which you have residences all down there. And I don't think that needs to be included. So like it is now, just take most of this red and turn it into a single business district.
So.
And you may wanna do front and central.
They did have 017 as a gateway, does that include?
I don't know if we do. I mean, it is,
Yeah, I guess they.
it is zoned GC1 all the way down to the end of town. So that's all commercial right now.
yeah, but at some point, we're gonna say you're leaving the central business
Yeah,
district,
central
now.
business.
You're just in our commercial district. Because we don't want, we wanna allow a fast food drive-through at some point on 17. That really helps in your mind, like where would we allow a fast food restaurant? We don't want it downtown on 17, we
that's
want it
how
somewhere.
it's.
Right.
Yeah, but you know, down there, that's not where Wendy's is, going back that way, that all of that.
So yeah, if
If
you
I'm
go
that's
to
for sure.
if you go to 17 to like where AutoZone is, the bank, or even the Circle K. And
That's all suburban development, which
Yeah.
makes sense for GC1.
Yeah, but if you know, and then going down to like where, like you said, the Methodist church is.
So we've got off track, you're talking about,
It's central.
We're gonna come back to you with a draft central business district map next month.
we're talking about expanding to include the green border areas.
Oh, of the central, yeah.
Right, I mean, that's what this discussion started with, in our opinion, we're trying to get a consensus. So now we've detracted into something else.
No,
You see what I'm
no, we're talking about
We were talking about this central business,
the zoning.
Yeah.
Several business district, yes, but
zone.
we were,
Green is the overlay.
exactly, we were talking about trying to give a decision whether we should expand some conditions to the overlay
No,
that are in the district, particularly in parking.
No, I think.
They will be all included in the overlay, yeah.
But now we're talking about what will be the central.
Yeah, it's central. Other people's property. Thank you.
Yeah, now we're talking about what we want to consider as the central business district.
Right,
And
that's
so
zoning.
Right, so what he was looking at on the map is, so if you look at what's pink, like, you know, how much would we can include to be considered the central business district?
Are you talking about expanding the thing?
No, I just used the pink as a starting point. If I come to you, this was the draft, you might say, well, there's not enough of Summit in there, and you're too much into the neighborhoods with the zoning. This is zoning, not overlay. This is
Right.
downtown development. So at some point on 17, the downtown zoning was that you build right to the sidewalk. And then when you're out of downtown, just in GC1, you set back 30 feet, put your parking out there. That's the real development difference between downtown zoning, central business district, and GC1 will be car oriented. Downtown zoning is people oriented. You park in the back, and walk around. You walk door to door down the sidewalk, you know, get your car and drive over to the next parking lot, get back out again. So we'll come back with a draft. It'll be similar to this, but it'll be more like a T, a plus. And then you can see if we need to tweak it further.
I understand.
And then we'll bring that to the commission for their tweaking. Lupita, was that everything?
Yes, and so, thank you for the great discussion. I will need, and then I'm gonna take the map that we have for the downtown that's currently red, and then that the central business district, and bring it back as a draft and see, we'll go from there. We're not changing any of the language for it right now. And then your master plan is in November, so we can make sure we align, with those.
And next month, it's those two chapters that are very administrative, was it?
And one of them is the waterways, which came out of Muni Code, there's not much changes there, not even one statute's changed, and administration.
Mark's gonna present those.
Yeah, I'll be at a workshop, and
And then will that be it? Are we done?
then, great,
I have a few comments,
okay, thank you.
which would be brief. Under 314 Public Facility District, it has prison. Really don't, you know, our 2.5 square miles, I don't think that should be there. Holding cell, perhaps, or prison.
And it's a fuel storage depot, not. There you go, it's done. You changed the depot into depot,
You guys share that feeling,
and then one load.
strike prison, or?
It's a plant on a plant.
We ain't big enough for a cruise.
Yeah.
It's a growth industry now.
Well, how can you import people in?
Unfortunately.
Did you find that, Lupita?
There she got it, she's got it.
Still need it.
Second, on 3.7 multifamily residential. And I remember we discussed this, but wireless facilities, what's the definition of that? When I think of a wireless facility, I think of a cell tower. You know, I think of one quite tall and ugly.
But we don't allow them in all the residential.
What is that?
3.7.
Multi-family residential, under conditional uses as wireless facilities.
Yeah, it's probably a cell tower.
Yeah.
So what's the possible height?
Um,
3.7.
Okay, thank you.
Under conditional uses.
let's see.
It's that on the next page, it has 35 feet, is that would that answer that
That's
question?
what it is. It's 35 feet.
Building height, that include the towers, would be 35 foot tower. I don't know what those towers typically are.
Whatever you want, 25 feet.
Well, it's a
Yeah,
conditional.
monsters.
It's a
But it's not
conditional
conditional.
use, and so they would have to come before this board.
Oh, I see, okay, so that handles it.
They'd have to,
Yeah,
so
okay.
any negative impacts would have to be
I
mitigated.
guess my other question with that is it really needed, it couldn't be, outside the residential area?
We can have a tower here throughout the town. Because it's also
Can we-
residential.
Can we limit towers? I know the new 5G stuff on the poles, we can't touch it.
No, not that,
Towers closer together.
I can look
Yeah, I
at
don't
it.
want to hamper us, but, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think the fact that it's a contingent item,
And
dealt with
I
on
think
a
that would
individual
work itself
basis.
out.
yeah.
And if we're gonna grow, we would need to have time.
A wireless,
I'm
yeah,
the first one to complain about the signal.
They don't cover it. There's none of them located on a watch tower.
You heard me.
But you know, that SR4, does it have the chart in there? It's like,
does it have the one in there?
the charge on SR4. Does it have to get it, not have it, I just want to make sure. We can have it.
What page?
On mine is page 6, sorry. Is that right there? What one is that, they just go back? Is that MR, okay, yeah, keep it, it's right there, that's SR4 and there's no chart. There'd be one right there between SR4 and
I
MR.
did note that as well.
Oh,
The site development
Table missing.
standards are not for, it's not.
That's on 6.
Okay, hang on, hang tight, guys, we do have one for that.
Yeah, just,
There's no site standards. And it's.
yeah, it doesn't have the lot size, you know, so.
No,
There's
sorry.
no site standards.
I do have two other questions briefly.
Okay, okay, thank you, I'll add that chart. Yeah. Okay, I'm ready.
Like every community in America, we have a homeless problem. In all this, does it allow for a homeless shelter? Is there allowance for such a facility? And if you like, you can bring that to our next meeting, that answer.
No homeless shelter, but we can add it, that's a conditional use in residential areas for central business, professional office.
Well, I think we added, then I think we should get thought of where the placement is. Because now they're just like on the street, which obviously is a problem for them and for others. The other is a treatment center. Are treatment centers allowed in this new plan?
I think by law they're allowed, yes.
Is is it GC1?
Yes, I think it is in
GC1.
We got a town.
And we have one, yeah,
It's a PD.
and
Oh, which end? That end is in. Oh, right behind it, right?
actually,
Oh,
it's,
yes,
it's
yeah.
a very, it's recognized everywhere as a, as a successful,
They're gonna be coming to you for expansion.
Yeah, it's a PD.
but it's recognized as a successful, treatment, center.
And, it's interesting because it's secluded and it allows people to get some,
We met with them today, they're gonna come to amend their PUD to allow some additional, another 75 jobs. That's,
Okay.
Is it a outpatient or inpatient or both?
It's gonna be both, there's detox, and then those will be in more of a residential setting in the back, like a transitional.
So now you're trying to change, okay.
How many beds do they have now?
I don't know, they wanna add about 80 beds.
Yeah, and then originally, their PD, they amended to add a room in the back there, but obviously they didn't do that.
Well,
it's,
It'll become a
it's
deal.
quite successful.
yeah,
It's
great
great.
location, perfect location.
Yeah, a light change from what the original, cause it was like, it wasn't easy to get in there. I mean, it was supposed to stay $30,000 and $50,000.
Oh, really?
Yes, when they originally, opened, so, cause that was a concern, is can people walk in and out?
Yeah, she
Um,
mentioned they were afraid of that,
so-
the community was afraid of that.
yeah,
That's why there's the fence around it, and the access.
yeah, but, no, there's people, but they can't hold them there either. So,
Yeah, it's on hold.
now, they can't, if I refuse and I'm ready to go home, they have to let me go.
Without an agreement.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna look for homeless shelters, and I'm gonna look at other, cities where they put them, like, I don't know if it's with the Salvation Army kind of area. And is there something else I should be, before we come back? I mean, I know the map, but is there something I should research for a good best practice other than a homeless shelter?
Nothing that we've talked about tonight, so.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I think that's all we have tonight.
Repeated, do you want to send that file as well?
I will update you just real quick. You're probably aware the commission did not appoint a vacancy because of the upcoming election. If Mr. Lord is elected, and there are 2 vacancies. And so they have on their agenda for October, there's 2 candidates and potentially 2 vacancies. So they'll make those appointments in October. It was a tie vote for the 2 applicants for the 1 spot. So.
I'm over to adjourn this meeting, the next one. Anything else? No, I said I'm going to adjourn.
Anybody second?
Oh,
Okay.
okay, great.
He made the motion?
Yeah, he made
A
a
second.
motion. Okay, there's a motion and second that, planning and zoning meeting be adjourned. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Miss Alice.
The rest of this is good. And we still need a repetition to do.
We still don't know based on the applicants.
Ms. Ellis, if you just wanna come to.
Go this way.
Yeah.
Okay, please. Okay, the Crescent City Historical Preservation Board meeting for September 21st, 2023 will now come to order. First item of business will be the approval of the minutes from August 14th, 2023.
Madam Chairperson, I've read them. I move that we approve the minutes.
It has been moved and seconded that we approve the historical preservation minutes, August 14, 2023. Next item,
All those in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry,
It's okay, I can do it for sure all the time.
thank you.
Or direct.
Next item is any public comments?
I think we have a question now.
I should.
Always nice to hear public comments.
Next item is our business items. First, on the,
The land development fund?
You didn't have that, you don't have that on here. So my request would be that we do that first, so Peter can go home, yeah.
okay, so we need that, for the first business item is, so we're gonna move 14 to number one.
Number one.
Okay, so number 14 to number 1. Our land development code review 3.16.
So can you hear me okay, or do I need to?
The only thing is if anybody's watching online, they won't be able to hear you. Not that I'm sure.
I tried to take it out, but I don't know if I know how to do
Charles
that.
will make it work, right?
Karen, are you able to hear her for the minutes when you review?
I would like you to amplify your voice.
And can you push your mic down with you?
Yeah,
Now that you get a share of it.
Do I move the whole thing?
You can pull it out.
You should. Oh,
You really should do it.
no, you
Oh,
lost
no, that's,
the
yeah, that's something you do. You gotta pull the wire out. You really should do that.
It might be stuck on the bottom of it.
It should be.
Charles, you should ask the commission, see if we can see L mics or something.
Okay, thank you once again, Peach McLean, from Jeff Cohen, and we're gonna address the board, tonight on the, historic preservation. And it's 316 of your zoning regulations, and they should be starting on page 18. So we do have the intent, of the historic district, and this is applied to anything that's already designated as a local, state, or national site of historical or archaeological significance. And what the regulations are intended to do, which is to protect against the destruction of these areas, and to prevent development that which would detract from that character, and to discourage unnecessary destruction of your historic buildings. This is the performance standards are going to be applicable to what the zoning district is. So if it's, if the zoning district is, single-family residential, then those, minimum lot sizes, would apply. And generally, since it's already existing, it's already what the minimum lot size is. And, however, if somebody wants to build something new, and you're a certified local government, you have the status of a certified local government, they can't build something and pretend that it's old. It just has to be compatible with the historic district. So it can be a mid-century modern, as long as it's compatible with the surrounding area. So you can't pretend that it's old and build something and pretend that it was built, I'm not sure exactly what the years are of your inventory. And I'll show you on this map, if it comes up, and I hope that it does. These are your contributing buildings. No, that's your inventory, sorry about that.
So when you say pretend to be old, our current code requires certain architectural styles, so, if I wanted to build, if I could afford to build a Queen Anne style, would that mean I have to build something mid-century
No,
modern?
what it means is that you have to be compatible with that architectural style, that you can, I mean, you can build something new, and it could be hardy board and, it could have that cottage look, or, but it can't, it can't fake it. The Secretary of Interior standards.
So you can do new construction of a Queen Anne, but it has to have the architectural features, correct?
Yes, it does have to have an architectural.
So if I wanted to build a mid-century home, and my neighbor has a Queen Anne existing, there's no problem with me building a mid-century home?
No.
Okay. Good.
My concern was there's no prohibition on me building a classic historic style house
No, there's
out of
not.
brand new materials.
Correct, there's not.
Yeah.
I've known planners that are that way, like, nope, you can't copy old historic building. A copy, it's classic architecture, beautiful
Yes.
architecture.
That's,
But I wanna make sure someone could build a colonial revivals, it would be a cheaper thing to build it, but they could build it, and people driving by might not realize, oh, that's a 2023 house and not a, 1905 house or something.
Yeah, they use modern building material.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's exactly right. So you could use hardy board, you don't have to use cedar, as an example. And so you're in the historic district, but your building is non-contributing when it's new.
So if I'm within the historic district, can I build a contemporary home
Yes. Mhm. You can.
in a modern style and not,
Yes.
okay?
Mhm.
Good to know.
Now, you're gonna be in the historic district, but you're not gonna be a contributing building to the historic district.
Right.
So that means that,
Our current code wouldn't allow that. Would it? It actually lists the styles, our current architectural standards list 4 or 5 styles. You need to, and the only reason we could control my understanding of the law is because it's within a historic district.
these are the standards that were adopted. And, so it is talking about the relationship of form and use and texture and color, which is another word for compatibility, so.
See, to show us how it's worded, there is a reference to several,
6 different styles now. There's. This is a mass distribution. They're colonial craftsmen,
yeah,
that's within the central
High quality.
CRA. Yes.
This is in your CRA district. These are the guidelines that were adopted, in 2018, but they have not been codified.
Can you scroll down so we can view the other styles?
What was that ranch out?
No, that's not.
Italian.
Yeah, okay, that was, what's the frame or masonry vernaculars, okay, that's very broad.
Not very,
Vernaculars.
yeah.
but you couldn't build a snout house. A modern house with a garage sits in the front yard, in front of the house, and the house is kind of behind the 2-car garage.
Oh,
Call it a snout house.
Thank goodness.
But there's how,
But this is just a CRA, which
such as CRA.
doesn't really have much residential area.
Yeah, not much at all.
Oh, because we couldn't enforce it in the historic, because you have that DCLG, have a local historic district. But there's no real teeth in the national register district.
Well, the state came in and said you cannot, decide design issues unless it's in a CRA or historic district or HOA. So for instance, the little house built on 308, We can't say anything about style. We just have to do setbacks and our usual stuff. So this 3.16 will relate, can relate only to our historic districts and potentially CRAs.
So 316 is applicable to this boundary. Make the boundary smaller.
Well, that's a nice blur.
No.
Big area.
Yeah, I'm sorry, this is the only map that we have that have the contributing buildings, and we haven't digitized it yet to make it better.
So you'll bring, next time, it will be refined.
I will do my best to get it refined, yes, and so,
Well, quite honestly, it's not very beneficial.
You zoom in, sometimes if you zoom way in.
yeah,
Everything that's,
No, but
that's outlined,
yes,
where-
your district is this
my point is,
border here. And,
that would be better.
and it's applicable to your inventory.
Can you enlarge it further?
Mhm.
Thank you.
It is really light, it's handmade, the judge are all.
Full cartography.
Yeah.
So everything that is contributing is this hash mark.
Yeah.
And, everything that's non-contributing is blank. This was your original historic survey.
1995.
Right.
And so your guidelines would be your, Secretary of Interior standard, once you have your status, would be applicable to your contributing building. So if an individual who owned, this lot, this building here, and wanted to demolish it, it would still have to come before this commission in order to demolish it, that because it's a non-contributing building, they could get a demolition permit potentially. And they could build,
We wouldn't have a basis for denial, is what you're saying.
correct,
But they still did have to.
Still gotta ask.
yes, because it's in the district.
And there are historic buildings outside the district, but they're just not contributing. Because they had to draw out to make it one of the highest density of contributing structures, but at least not contributing.
Right, you have to have enough contributing buildings to create a district. So when we're talking about, your guidelines and your contributing buildings, this is the inventory, was surveyed. And so make sure that you have a copy of that survey that should be updated, I think, every 5 or 10 years. I think it's in your grant.
I did the grant this year.
Because homes have to be 50 years old, so at one time, we never thought that ranches would be historic. Well, now it's a great historic homes, or it's a pretty modern homes now. One time we.
There's great interest in them.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Mile. So I'll make sure that this commission has, that survey and this map, and we'll do our best to digitize it and make it, a GIS map of data.
Thank you very much.
So back to your Article 3. So that's the purpose of your performance standards here. We have definitions, and stop me when you have a question. Here's your criteria for a landmark designation. This could be a property or a site. Does have to go, have a public hearing for it.
And that goes before the city commission.
Yes.
Here's your criteria for modifying historic structures. Here's new construction on, historic sites. So this is the Historic Preservation Board.
Yes. Yeah. HPB.
Here's gonna be your elements if something is compatible or local, for your local register, for the historic district. And here's where we talked earlier about new buildings, designed to be compatible, to the existing surrounding neighborhood, utilize similar architectural style, suitable transition. That's really clear, but okay, here's where you get your certificate of appropriateness. This is what the board actually provides to an applicant who is coming to either build in the historic district or demolish in the historic district. You will be giving them a certificate of appropriateness, and then that is what goes to the building department.
Change that to historic preservation board.
Did you hear that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So when this is passed, would a homeowner with a contributing structure in the National Register District have to get a COA, or only if we designate it a local district as well?
Only if you get the status of the local certified government.
So, I mean, once we get that status, do we have to designate the area as a local district, or just because it's a national register, they have to get a certificate of appropriateness?
Just the local district.
Just if it's also designated.
Okay, so, what you could do is you could approve it as presented. You could do it with conditions. You could deny it. And though that would be the responsibility of this board. There does have to be evidence on the need for demolition.
All of this came from our historic preservation ordinance.
No, your
This-
ordinance is all new, absolutely.
So it's somewhere.
Yeah, it's similar, may or may not be otherwise.
So it sounds very familiar to them.
Because we've already went over this.
Yeah, but there's similarities for
This, I think
that.
tonight was just supposed to be a review of it.
And mostly a review because I think the city is looking for a certified local government status, which would help your Main Street and then open up, opportunities for grants from the state. So that is all I have for your historic preservation. You do have an ordinance that that would need to be updated, when you approve this. Which I'll have ready once it goes to the city commission. This does go to the city commission.
Are you gonna amend our old one or just write it in?
We're gonna write one that have the normal ordinance from the state for certified local government.
You'll just replace our current.
And you have a no. Yeah, how the committee on it, we work it, that'd be nice.
It's been amended to death.
Yes.
I have a comment, not related, because it's 13.17, mobile homes. Setbacks, side setback is 7 feet. That doesn't seem enough.
All right.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know if you were scrolling, yeah. Great, good.
But this would be in a mobile home park,
Right,
and
so is that to the, another
another.
structure, or is it the property line setback?
Be the property line. So there'd be 7 feet on the other side of the property line, it's 14 feet apart.
This is a park, right? It's like one owner.
Yeah, so you can see on the minimum lot width,
I think he's asking where that's the outside of the property, right? Is that-
yeah, the setback is from the property line to the structure.
So in between both
So that's
structures is
just in
14.
between, that's not on the sides of the property where it is adjacent to another piece of property.
There would be 14 feet in between two structures. So each structure has, it's 7 feet from the property line.
I have a friend that lives next to the new park that's going in down on South Prospect, down in that area. And, so you're saying her property where that property line meets, they could bring a mobile home within 7
No.
feet of that
That's not a-
property?
That's an RV
That's an
resort.
RV. yeah.
No, but if it were a mobile home, or could they place a trailer 7 feet from the property line?
That's 7 feet is,
Well, what's the other setback?
The front is 25, the rear is 20, side is 7.
So it would depend on the layout, so that could be the rear of that property, it'd be 20 feet from the property line.
but if you're the next door neighbor to that property, which this person is, they potentially could put that, you can't put a house within 7 feet of property.
No, but if you can visualize the way that mobile home park would be laid out, that neighboring property would be at the back of that mobile home, which is a 20-foot setback. The sides would be mobile homes on each side of it, they'd be 14 feet apart, because each one would have a 7-foot setback.
Right,
From mobile home to mobile home.
Yeah, it would be
But
14
I'm
feet
talking from mobile home to
neighbor,
the property line, a neighbor.
a neighbor property line.
Yeah,
If it's the back, it'd be 20 feet.
oh, I know that, this
Yeah.
says side, 7 feet.
Well, so for it to be the side, it'd have to be a road. Yeah, so they could be 7 feet from the adjacent property line, and that's a single family home. It's 20 feet from their property line. I think their setback's 20 feet.
So why can't we just make it all?
yeah, but you're saying back, that particular property, the back of it is the lake.
Because this is.
But it'd be divided into lots.
This is 5
I
acres.
realize that, but I mean, this doesn't specify side to side for the neighbors of the property. It's only saying like those little lots. I understand in an RV park, you've only got that
Did you,
much.
which the current one say? Mobile home.
But I just was curious,
We don't have anything on this.
you know, how you decide side to side. Is it,
Is this something that is,
Because this is a park that it says 5 acres minimum, 20 acres maximum. So does that
Are we
mean?
done with
It's a
the
front park, so
HVAC?
you have a whole park.
Right.
It'll be cut up into lots,
So the water
and
house-
within the lots, they'll be 14 feet apart. They're allowed to be 14 feet apart.
yeah, that's fine. Mhm.
But to the neighboring non-park, non-mobile home park, it would, my view of this, Lupita, correct me if I'm wrong, you'd have to look at the layout. So if there's an internal street, those mobile homes now have their back to the neighbor. So they have to be 20 feet from that neighbor. If they're side by side, in a mobile home park, that's odd, they maybe on the front highway, the front road to the park, they could be side by side, but otherwise, there has to be interior road network, or it's a 5 to 20 acre park. So there is no, unless I'm missing it, there's no differentiation between the park a park setback with his neighbor, is that correct, Lupita?
I'm gonna look at what your current one is. No,
This is an 8-foot wide, 6-foot high buffer reminding on the exterior boundary of the mobile home park.
And that's just, it's all the way around.
Okay.
So there's a landscape buffer requirement that's 8 feet
We don't have,
wide around the
we
boundary.
don't have this now. Because it's not a zoning.
So that would be
So that would
7
help
feet
with
plus
that.
the 8 feet, around 15 feet now.
It's interesting because this says each manufactured home shall be set back 7.5 feet from the property line.
Where is that?
That's,
27.
17.1.
Under purpose?
yeah, C, one C,
So it's on page 30.
On the next page.
27.
Oh, sorry, mine's.
It say 15.
Okay, so we have a discrepancy there, Lupita.
Then it says 15 feet between.
Yeah, 7.5, 7.5. So we need to change the chart to 7.5 feet.
And
Okay, I'm on the chart right now, I don't know, so,
Page 26, are you on?
No, it's a different chart.
27.
Yeah.
26, and then
I'm on
27.
it right here.
However,
No, you're one page past it. Go back up.
Is it each manufactured mobile home park?
Got it, we'll go back up to
The
the
main,
next.
the main table that's
Keep going.
under the
There.
summary down.
So that side 7 feet on setbacks,
Okay,
would need to be 7.5 feet, just to match the next page.
okay.
and I'm troubled by the 7.5 feet. It's just not enough.
Okay, do we wanna change it to,
What's a normal property setback on the side?
For single-family residential.
Yeah.
What is our sides, do you remember, it's 15 or 20 feet, right? Actually, yeah, it's probably right here,
That's right. Yeah.
that's in the PZ packet.
Front is 25, rear is 20, side is 10, or 10% of lot width, whichever is greater.
What's this stuff?
15 feet?
10 feet,
10.
or 10% of the width, whichever is greater. So it should be at least 10, that still makes sense.
Can I ask a question for, where does the site development standards come from? Is that just a standard for mobile home parks, or?
Where'd you guys get it with like the best practices?
Yeah, we probably took them from an area that had,
Pre-existing mobile home.
But if we want our mobile homes to be less dense, we could require a 10-foot setback.
Right now, the zoning category is existing there. There's no land zoning this time.
Correct, this is new, right? Yeah. And that's a decision we need to make.
So there's one current park.
Meaning you don't want them all tacked up in there?
Correct, if we didn't want them that dense, we could say you gotta put them
Other developer.
a 10-foot setback, which puts them 20 feet apart, which is more like single family.
Or 15 from the side property line.
So maybe they have 30 feet apart.
Well,
Well,
not trailer to trailer, from the one trailer to the property line.
That's what I
Oh, the
understand.
park, you mean?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
well, that's currently at 15 feet.
Can we just
I
extend?
don't see where it's at
The
15.
landscape.
If you look landscaping
Right.
buffer, there's an 8-foot wide landscaping
6
buffer,
feet wide and 6 feet high.
and then there's
So why
7
would
feet
this
setback.
say 7.5 on the board?
That's trailer to trailer.
Within the park itself.
Between manufactured homes and between all their structures.
Is that assuming that each trailer sits on its own lot within the development part? Okay,
Yeah, it's kind of.
yeah, now I understand.
so this is saying on page 28, that they can sell each individual lot in the trailer park.
You can own it fee simple,
So they can sell each individual lot.
yes. So that means that they would own the land and the trailer. It would be fee simple,
Or it could be condominium style.
or it can be a condominium park, yeah.
Is there any, negative of that, doing that?
No,
It's harder to assemble that land and make it something else.
Yeah.
Ever try to buy out a trailer park, it's There's like 50 owners.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, yeah.
When that happens, it's usually you own your own trailer,
So, yeah,
but you get charged the lot fees.
yeah, you're right.
Right.
So that you pay for the water, whatever is included in our lot fee.
But this is saying you can't own you can own that piece of land too, is what I'm reading.
It's an option, yeah,
That would be an
the
option.
developer could sell off.
That might be financially advantageous. They charge us tons of money for a lot fee. A lot of times, in the mobile homes are too old to move, so they're stuck there. I know that situation.
They got Brady Greases.
Yeah.
When you do buy that lot, it's usually a nicer trailer park, I mean, it's usually a nicer facility project if they sell them.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Anything else on historic preservation or historic, we're calling it HD now, right? HD, historic district.
Okay.
I'm usually. Yeah, I know. I'm supposed to write it.
Thank you.
Go ahead and say what you need to say, and take off that computer when you take some of your files or save there.
Well, the only thing that I'd like to close with is thank you for, this was as formal as we normally have it, because we wanted to have a good discussion on it. I do hope that we can align it with your GRA plan, so we're gonna work with your consultants to make sure that everything aligns. And, I look forward to going to the city commission. I'm not certain what the appetite is, and so, if I were, going to make a strong recommendation and arm wrestle somebody, I would hope that the subdivision ordinance would be, a priority, as well as, your downtown economic development, and what we come up with here. I think are excellent, best practices. And if they do adopt it, then I'll come back and ask for permission if we can take that subdivision ordinance to the APA and as a model ordinance for an award for that.
Did I give you the next commission workshop is October 5th
Oh, no, we didn't,
at
thank you.
3 o'clock.
Okay,
We're gonna go over what this board went over last month. They're down 2 months behind.
okay, so that's gonna be annexation,
Whatever we did in August, right?
okay.
Yeah, whatever the P and Z did in August, the commission will look at on October 5th.
I'll shoot you an email to verify as well.
All right, thank you. And so this board next will see, chapter 2, which is administration. And that talks about boards and how long you're a member and how we can appoint it and, et cetera, et cetera. And also what used to be chapter 5, which is now, I'm not sure which chapter, which is your waterways. And then, and then you have an updated land development code. Congratulations.
Oh, there you go.
2 more chapters back.
Yeah, you guys do great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I will.
We look forward to the next time.
Okay. Our next item of business will be, we'll go back to the responsibilities. So we need that.
I have nothing to add at this time. Does anyone else?
We'll move to goals.
Same.
Okay, city goals.
You guys are doing it.
Recommendations. Any recommendations? Okay, new historical recommendations, nominations? Okay. Inventory of condemned properties?
Is that where this one comes under?
Yes.
Okay. Number, notice of unsafe buildings?
The reason why that's in your packet is because Dan Dodge had asked, for what they normally do for the permitting, the inspection when they condemn a house. So this is his report on that house, that particular lot. He's working on getting me a list of what they actually do when they condemn it.
Okay.
Oh, that's
So-
great.
We're just waiting,
Thank
I'm
you.
just waiting for that to come back to me.
And this information is extremely helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what
It
you requested
explains,
last time.
explains why it's
Mhm.
done.
Yeah.
This property, the tax deed did sell as a new owner. And so we contacted them and informed them of the liens and so forth that are going on, trying to find out what the plan is. The neighbor was gonna try to get it and expand his property and was unsuccessful.
Obviously, so
So this is the first Homestead property?
Or one of the people?
this is that one on South Prospect Street. 515.
This is 515.
This is when it was supposed to be done in 2019.
It's a different owner now. It's
Yeah, it's a different one. This is just from when he condemned it. This is the report.
I see.
You know what I mean? This report is when he condemned it because that was done in 2019.
I see.
the neighbor who wanted it was hoping they would obtain it, said that the roof has actually collapsed to the interior.
Yes.
Now the interior was completely ruined.
But probably said that whoever bought the tax deed paid well above the amount that was owed.
Yeah, they really wanted it.
Which is encouraging to me. That means that maybe they want to, they obviously want to do something with it, not just, no one's gonna throw away that much money.
But it's a nice location.
Reading this report. It doesn't really tell you much, does it? I mean, it says like, you have to look up the code of it. So I read through this and I'm like, I don't see, except for being unsafe, I'm like, what exactly did it say was unsafe about it? Or am I missing something?
It just said unsafe building, card was placed, did not remove,
Right.
place card just, but it doesn't,
What does that mean? Yeah. It
yeah.
says it violates, certain part of Florida building code or whatever. And I'm just like, unless we know that by heart, which I'm sorry, I don't know about.
Yeah, it states the conditions,
Yeah.
and then it just says unsafe. It doesn't give
Oh,
a definition of why,
Structures decayed,
yeah.
damaged, decayed, dilapidated, unsanitary, unsafe, or permanent infested. So that's a lot of different, it's like, or, there's a lot of different options, It doesn't say what it is.
It could be, perhaps it's actually all inclusive.
I mean, that would be,
Yeah, that would be it.
and then it says like 1994 SHC 39.1, so. It also says, I don't know. I don't think it didn't hit anything for me.
Okay, all right, so it is now in the possession of the owner, and they're doing what they need to do to bring it into compliance.
We're unlawful.
Oh, okay.
We reached out to
Okay, so,
So it does have a new owner? is what I-
someone bought the tax deed.
yeah, but there is a letter in here from Putnam County Planning and Development Service as well.
It says everything that was unsafe on that page. It talks about, the roof, it talks about the electrical outlets.
Well, it says that you have to get a permit to fix those things.
Yeah.
It doesn't really say what's necessarily wrong. I don't know, I just wanted, if there's something wrong with all of those things, but it says, every electrical outlet and fixture, all electrical wiring, equipment must be installed and maintained. That's just boilerplate stuff.
Well, it sounds like more information is forthcoming.
Yeah.
We're just waiting, I'm just waiting for
Yeah,
this.
it sounds like it's on top of it.
Okay, so,
I'm just
Okay.
waiting for them to email me back the information that was asked, and he needed more clarification, so I had to give him more clarification. I tried to do it in general, but he wanted more clarification, so I had to send it back to him.
So Karen, why, this is helpful to us, that a resident somebody may tear it down. It's helpful to us if a concerned resident approaches us and says, why did you allow that to be torn down? So if we have the documentation,
So why it needs to be.
then we can satisfy that. Oh, sure, yes, yeah, but in the process, the citizen may approach us with concern.
Okay, all right. All right, let's, move on to number 7, pending. Okay, so number 8, Miller School. I don't know. So this is a-
I did not get a chance to talk to Holly. I had reached out to her. She's been busy and I thought I'm gonna try and download it the next week.
Okay, so it's pending,
Yeah.
maybe next week.
Okay,
I just,
I know she
she was on vacation.
She was on vacation as well.
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
Did we get her scoring over there?
It's been rescheduled twice.
Oh, because of the hurricane.
okay, historic district,
No, it's not.
Nothing.
I don't have anything on
okay, all right. Number 10, grants status updated from Charles Rudd.
Yeah, the scoring webinar was rescheduled due to the hurricane and then been rescheduled again into October. So
Okay,
it's an all-day online webinar where I will sit there and wait my turn to answer the questions again.
okay, so, for the score webinar,
When did I
I don't remember.
has been scheduled.
I was excited. Is that right? Madam Chairperson, I move we adjourn.
We gotta do
Oh, I thought we were done, sorry.
no,
We're
architectural and site guidelines,
Nothing,
okay.
I do have a
We
question.
did, okay,
So like that house or the office that owns Young's building, will that, what did we do? It was a conditional, no, it was a variance,
The
with
variance.
because of the lot lines. Will that come back for us as far as for the appropriateness of the,
My understanding it will.
okay, that's all, I was just making sure.
We haven't received anything further from them.
That's what I do too.
oh, that's good to hear.
Okay, sorry, thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chairperson.
all right. Building permits, cause. Okay.
Nope.
Land development codes.
We
We
did.
did that, okay, I'm trying to go, okay.
I second the motion.
Thank you.
All right.
Are you ready, girl?
Okay, at this time, the Historic Preservation Board meeting is adjourned. All right, thank you all for your service. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good meeting. Yes, good meeting.
There's election on the board.
Huh?